I Am Big is about sharing what's working in a big way. In 2007, Denise learned that she would never be able to have her own biological children. Today, she has 3 beautiful sons. Let us find out how. Let us welcome Denise to the I Am Big Show. Welcome, Denise, to the I Am Big Show. Very nice to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks
How are
for
you
having
doing
me.
today? You're looking beautiful.
Oh, thank you. It's wonderful to be
Everyone,
here.
this is lovely, Denise. We see you have chosen the Pina Colada.
That's right.
Tell us about the Pina Colada and why.
So a pina colada to me represents just serenity. It's a sunny drink. It's a calming drink. When I think of a pina colada, I go back in time to when I've spent time at the beach. For our honeymoon, we went to St. Thomas, and Dexter, our pool assistant, would ask me every day, "What drink would you like, Mrs. Steele?" And I would always say a pina colada. And so it takes me back to that time. It is a virgin pina colada because for those people that
I
are
think
trying...
yours is. I don't know about mine. I mix things. I'm kidding. Yours is for sure.
But for those who are trying to start their family, they may not be able to drink alcohol. So we chose to make, at least mine, a
Yes,
virgin
yours
pina
is.
colada.
I can promise you that. So I know, as we were talking earlier, that you had some fertility issues earlier on, and since now you have 3 beautiful, beautiful boys, the BLT brothers, who we will be talking about. So tell us about your experience and what happened.
Sure. When my husband and I married, we knew that we wanted a family. And in the early stages, when we were trying to have our family, we suffered 2 losses. Our first was loss to triploidy, which is a very severe form of Down syndrome. I need to drink it by pina colada. It's, very deep and very sad for me. But our second was, we weren't sure. It was undetermined why the second child was lost. And after that, we decided to go through infertility treatments. And I needed answers. I knew that I wanted to be a mother, and I knew that I wanted to have a family, and that was very important to me. So we went through fertility. We saw a wonderful endocrinologist, and we only were able to go through 1 IVF cycle, which was uncompleted. We learned that the 3 embryos that grew from that cycle all had massive chromosomal abnormalities. So at that point, we knew that it was over for us in terms of having a biological child together. And I knew right away that my path was going to be, I wanted to desperately adopt. My husband, on the other hand, knew that he felt that he wanted a biological child. So we decided to, in the end, take both paths. So we've created our family through private domestic adoption and through an anonymous egg donor cycle. And now we have these 3 beautiful sons.
Absolutely. Thank you. For you, you just mentioned that, your husband wanted to go the biological path, and then you kind of were very strong about the adoption. At what point did you feel strong that, okay, adoption is the way to go, and what made you, obviously there's something you have to let go and something you have to accept to make that decision. At what point did you make that decision, and how did you feel about that?
So for me, it was immediate. I knew that the moment that my infertility was confirmed, I wanted to take the domestic adoption path. Interestingly enough, the week that we connected with our son's birth mother, she was pregnant at the time, we had also signed the contract with our egg donor. So we put that on hold, the egg donor on hold, because we really felt that it was important to move forward with the baby that we knew was already created and would likely be born and healthy. And he was born, and less than a year later, I delivered our identical twin sons. So they were born 4 days before his first birthday. So there was a lot of conflict, though, between when we adopted and when we went through the anonymous egg donor cycle. There was, it was internal conflict and it was external conflict. For me, it was really, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to us? And it was a sense of betrayal that my body had let me down. And the external conflict was, how are we going to seek out these paths financially, and how are we going to get on the same page? And I think that a lot of, if you have a partner, if you are a couple, sometimes that is really difficult to come together in that way where it makes sense and where you can both feel really good about the decisions that you're making. My husband made a comment when we first found out that he wanted to have our baby, not a baby. But the interesting thing is that when our adopted son was born, he was the first to hold him.
How did that make you feel?
He was so in love with our baby the moment that he held him. And he knew that he was our baby.
Does it really matter if it's your biological child or it's not? I mean, what do you think?
I can't imagine loving my children any more than I do. To me, they feel biological. I feel that fertility comes from not just your body, but from your mind and your spirit. And my children just happened to come through the spirit, and the spirit led me to these amazing people. Brandon's, birth mother, who made an amazing sacrifice for our happiness and for his happiness, most importantly. And the egg donor who was willing to work through the process and endure all that she endured to help us grow our family.
It's beautiful. Thank you. Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. I remember you mentioning that the whole egg donor cycle wasn't that simple either, right? Let's talk about that.
So I got a call. So we started the egg donor process, and I really and truly decided that it was something that I would do because we agreed that we would do both. And even though we had this beautiful child through adoption who we loved more than anything, I had agreed to do that. And so we took that path. And typically when you work with an egg donor, you choose somebody that's very young. And the egg donor that we happened to choose had been through another cycle and created almost 20 eggs for the family that she worked with. So I got a call from our endocrinologist the day that she went in for her retrieval, and he called and he said, it's a failure. You're not going to have any children through this cycle. She only created 1 egg, and I don't expect you to have any children. So fast forward to the doctor's office called that next day, and they said, well, the 1 egg did fertilize, so come in on...
The 1 egg did fertilize.
The 1 egg did fertilize, so come in on Monday. And we still don't expect an outcome, but just come in and we'll do the transfer. And I said, okay. So we did. And my husband was very emotional, and he was very happy that this was happening. And I just thought, nothing's going to come from this. We moved forward with the first ultrasound, which indicated that we were having identical twins.
From the
1 egg. And our doctor said, well, that's interesting. And I thought, oh no, this is bad news, like it's been before. And he said, no, I see 2 heartbeats. These are 2 gestational sacs. And I pointed to one and I said, that's an air bubble. That's going to go away by the next time. And he said, okay.
Every viewer right now is watching and feeling like, wow, miracles. It's a miracle. Mm-hmm. I mean, what are the chances of,
right.
1 egg, twins, and then considering the fact that you were not really... So you never say never.
Well, and the other interesting aspect of that is that I myself am an identical twin. I never imagined myself having twins because I had told the doctor if we had more than 1 embryo, we would only move forward with 1 embryo. And so when he said, I see 2 gestational sacs, I said, well, how is that possible? We only did 1 embryo. He said, you're an identical twin. You should know it just split.
You had mentioned that there were complications with, when the twins were born, mm-hmm. right? So mm-hmm. now that you got this news, the egg has split, mm-hmm. and what were the complications?
Well, my entire pregnancy was a very difficult and a very risky pregnancy. I had many complications throughout, and my main, I think, struggle was that I was fearful that the pregnancy would be lost again. The twins were posterior. I was carrying them posterior, which means that they were outward. So I never really felt them move but a few times. So that also emotionally kept me from really feeling like I was pregnant, other than the fact that I was in a lot of pain and that there was a lot of discomfort. When I delivered the twins, they were born 2 months early, and unbeknownst to my doctors, I was suffering from a disorder that, in the end, nearly killed me. I mean, when I delivered the babies, I bled out, and I had 7 blood transfusions and had an emergency hysterectomy.
7 blood transfusions.
Mm-hmm. And so my husband was told, be prepared for the worst. That you might be raising these 3 boys together on your own. But thankfully, God spared me, and now is allowing me to raise my 3 sons. Oh, I'm so blessed to be a mother, and I honestly can't imagine loving my children more. The big question that I always get from people who are going through infertility is, how do I know that I'll love a child that is not biologically mine? And my only answer is one that comes from my heart, which is, I can't imagine loving my children anymore.
So tell us about the BLT brothers a little bit. How did they get the name, and just tell us more?
The BLT brothers came from their names, which are Brandon, Logan, and Trevor. It was not planned, but after they were born, we started thinking about it, and we thought, oh, the BLT brothers. And that is what everybody calls them. They call themselves the BLT brothers.
They do.
The BLTs is what they call themselves.
And they all get along very well with each other?
Oh, of course.
And they're 1 year apart?
Less than a year apart. The twins were born 4 days before Brandon's first birthday.
When's their birthday, the twins' birthday?
So they're all born the first week of October.
Okay, cool. Mm-hmm. So big party at your place.
Oh, huge. Yes.
We bring gifts.
Okay, yes, please.
The question I have for you is, I have friends, and we all have friends who struggle with infertility, mm-hmm. right? And I think for you, you made a decision, and you found your parental path. What would you like to share with everybody today who might be struggling with infertility or are not sure whether to adopt or not? What would you like to share?
Well, I think the first step is accepting that your path will be different than what you had anticipated when you were pondering having your family. That while it will be different, it will be just as wonderful through whatever means your children come to you. That you'll feel the same joy, you'll feel the same worry for your children as anybody else that has their own biological children. The path will be more complex, and it will definitely, but that, in my opinion, makes you love your children all the more. That your struggle was so great, that your desire to have them was so great, that once they are in this world, you couldn't love them anymore.
Let me ask you a question, and I know you're a very honest person, mm-hmm. but I'm going to ask you this question, and I know we didn't discuss this, but that's okay. Trust me. Would you have rather had your own biological children now that you are where you are today?
I love the way that my children came to me. When I look in the rearview mirror and I see my adopted son's birth mother in his face and in his expressions, it takes me back to that time. And I never felt more joy than the day that my adopted son was born. We were there, and his birth mother gave us the biggest gift of all, and she allowed us to be in the room. I cut his umbilical cord. And it was such a joyous occasion. And honestly, that was probably one of the happiest times in our marriage, And so I really and truly love the experience that we had. Even though I had such a horrific delivery with the twins, when they were born, I bonded with them. I can't imagine. And so to me, it doesn't matter at all. It really doesn't matter at all.
Thank you. Talking about appreciation, Denise is moving forward the gift you have received and the blessings you have received, And the way she's moving it forward is through her amazing blog called Hope for Fertility, which gives everybody alternatives to parenting and different path and helps you, shows you how you can build a family no matter what. There are different ways to do it. There's a lot of resources. What is kind of interesting is you call the blog Hope for Fertility. Why do you call the blog Hope for Fertility when actually what really you're trying to say is that you can build a family in different ways and family does not have to be biological?
Mm-hmm.
Why is that?
For me, fertility comes again from the body, mind, and the spirit. And just because your body may forsake you and not allow you to have your children through your own DNA, your mind and your spirit will come into play and create your fertility. So regardless if it happens through adoption, regardless if it happens through surrogacy, regardless if it happens through, an anonymous egg donor, that's still your fertility. Those are still your children.
It's beautiful. And what I would like to share with our viewers today is that this is the path Denise took. There are several different paths out there. Only you can decide what works for you. But the one thing for sure we know, listening to your story, is that you can have a family if you choose to. Thank you for watching today. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.